All right, so today we are diving into the Euroleague.
Okay.
You sent us a ton of insert on this Real Madrid versus Panathinaikos game.
Right.
Articles, stats, even some pretty passionate fan comments in the mix.
Oh, wow.
And this was not your average game Tuesday night.
Yeah, no, and what's really interesting here is that this was a rematch of last season's EuroLeague final right off the bat.
Oh, wow.
So you've got that layer of intensity.
Oh, yeah.
That you can practically, feel radiating from these articles.
Oh, absolutely. It's like a grudge match waiting to explode.
Exactly.
And both teams were coming off losses going into this one.
Yeah.
Especially Real Madrid playing on their home turf.
Right.
They had something to prove.
Yeah, for sure. And that's where that psychological game within the game really starts to come to play, because it wasn't just about getting back in the win column. It was about reclaiming their dominance after a stumble.
Okay, so you've got this epic backdrop. But what's got me kind of scratching my head is that with all that, the sources agreed that it was a surprisingly close game, at least for a while.
Right.
The final score ended up being 90-86.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a nail-biter, but Real Madrid, they had a pretty comfortable lead for a good chunk of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So help me understand this. Like, what kept Panathinaikos in it for so long?
Well, that is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's not just about the what, it's about the why. And as we dig into the individual performances and those crucial turning points, you'll see that even within what looks like a comfortable lead on paper, there's a much more complex story playing out.
Okay, so let's talk about the guys who were just owning the court.
Yeah.
Across the board, every single source is handing that MVP crown to Facundo Campazzo for Real Madrid.
Absolutely.
This wasn't just a good game for him. It was like he was making a statement with every move.
He was incredible. They describe him as practically bursting with energy, and he was fresh off that suspension. Yeah. It's like he came back with a vengeance, determined to make up for lost time, and the stats definitely reflect that. 19 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds. He was everywhere.
Oh, totally. Dictating the flow of the game.
Absolutely. He was everywhere.
But even with that level of, dominance, Panathinaikos had their own star player putting up numbers.
They did.
Kendrick Nunn. He dropped 23 points.
Yeah.
Dished out 6 assists.
Right.
So was Nunn simply outmatched, or did his team just not capitalize on his performance?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question, right? Because you've got these standout individual performances happening on both sides.
Yeah.
But was it enough? Was Nunn a lone wolf out there? Or was there something more systemic happening with how Panathinaikos utilized his strengths? And I think that's where analyzing the turning points of the game gets really, really interesting.
Speaking of turning points, all signs are pointing to this third quarter collapse by Panathinaikos.
Oh, yeah.
They were very much in this game at halftime, only down by 5 points.
Right.
43-38. But then Real Madrid just explodes, man.
They did.
They go on this 12-2 run, build their lead.
Yeah.
And from what I'm seeing, Alberto Abalde, he emerges as this, unexpected hero.
He was the wild card. He was clutch.
Yeah.
I'm reading here, they're describing him as stepping up when it mattered most. He dropped 10 points in that third quarter alone.
Wow.
And get this, he wasn't even that much of a scoring threat last season.
Really?
Yeah, so this was a breakout performance for him, no doubt.
Wow, talk about seizing the moment.
Right.
Like they say, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog.
Love it.
And Abalde, he brought that fight in the third quarter.
He did. And, those momentum shifts, those can be absolutely backbreaking.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you're on the receiving end of a run like that. And it's interesting about Abalde's performance, it wasn't just about those points. Yeah, he was hitting those clutch threes.
Right.
But he was also, playing that suffocating defense, hustling for those loose balls. He brought the energy in every aspect of the game.
It's like he unlocked this whole new level.
He did.
And Real Madrid reaped the reward.
Right.
But hold on, because even with that third quarter surge, Panathinaikos, they didn't just wave the white flag.
No, they did not.
The sources mentioned this, incredible late game push.
Yeah.
Cutting the lead down to just 4 points.
Yeah.
In the final minutes. Talk about a roller coaster.
That's the thing, right? Even when you're facing a team that is just on fire like Real Madrid was that night.
Right.
Panathinaikos, they could have folded.
Yeah.
But they didn't, they dug deep and they mounted a serious comeback.
And they had some standout performances fueling that comeback too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Hernan Gomez, Career-high scoring night for Panathinaikos.
Wow.
And Papacho just consistently putting up points.
Putting in work.
Speaking of Hernan Gomez,
Yeah.
can you believe that shot he made in the fourth quarter?
Which one?
That one from way downtown.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing but net.
Yeah.
My jaw practically hit the floor.
Yeah, no, he was feeling it that night.
So it's like, you've got Real Madrid. They're feeling that pressure of maintaining that lead.
Right.
And maybe they ease up a little bit subconsciously.
It's easy to do when you're up.
Right.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you've got Panathinaikos.
Right.
They're not going down without a fight.
They're drawing on that experience, that championship pedigree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, though.
What's that?
Did either coach, make any significant adjustments
Oh, that's a good question.
during those, crucial final minutes?
That's where the chess match really happens, right? I mean, we can speculate all day long, but unfortunately, we don't have X-ray vision into the minds of these master strategists.
If only.
Right.
But, even with those individual efforts, even with those strategic battles,
Yeah.
the sources seem to hint at this recurring theme for Panathinaikos.
Oh,
This struggle to close out games.
interesting.
It's like they can hang with the best.
Yeah.
They go toe-to-toe with a powerhouse like Real Madrid,
Mm-hmm.
but they haven't quite figured out how to seal the deal.
It's like they're so close,
Right.
but just can't quite get over that hump.
It's like they have all the pieces,
Yeah.
but the puzzle isn't quite coming together yet.
Right.
They've got that talent.
Yeah.
They've got the heart,
They've got the fight.
but something seems to be missing
Interesting.
in those crucial final minutes.
And that's what often separates those good teams from the great teams,
Right.
The ability to not only bring it every single night, but to finish what you started.
It's like the difference between being a good story
Right.
and being a championship story.
Exactly.
So for Panathinaikos, it sounds like a little bit of a reality check.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Show that they can hang with the best,
Oh, yeah.
but those final minutes.
Right.
Oof.
Yeah, tough lessons learned.
So what needs to change for them to turn those close calls into victories?
The sources definitely highlight some areas for growth, like those slow starts, for example. You fall behind early against a team like Real Madrid, you're digging yourself a hole.
Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster.
Exactly. And, they were able to recover this time,
Right.
but that's not a strategy for long-term success.
For sure.
And then, like we were talking about, that reliance on those individual players rather than a cohesive offensive strategy.
Yeah, it's like they've got all these amazing solo artists, but
Right.
they're not quite a band yet.
They haven't quite figured out the harmony.
Exactly.
And then, of course, there's that lingering question of closing out games.
Right.
It's one thing to keep it close, to make a run when you're down,
Right.
but to be a truly elite team, you got to deliver that knockout punch.
Yeah, it's the difference between a good story and a championship story.
100%. And that's what makes this upcoming season so interesting.
Oh.
For Panathinaikos, are they going to address these issues and reach their potential, or are they going to fall into those same traps and,
They left behind.
Exactly.
Man, it's like we're watching this high-stakes drama unfold in real time.
It really is.
But before we get too caught up in their future,
Okay.
you mentioned earlier the historical weight
Yeah.
of this matchup, rematch of last year's Euroleague final.
Right.
Do you think that played a role at all, even subconsciously, in how these teams performed?
It's impossible to say for sure.
Right.
But we know the mental side of this game is just as important as the physical side. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
That pressure to avenge a loss,
Yeah.
the weight of defending a title, those things, they can have an impact.
Oh, for sure.
Even if it's just subconscious, it's there.
It's like this whole other layer of the game
Right.
that we can only speculate about.
Exactly. And that's what I love about these deep dives, right?
Oh, totally.
We go beyond just the box score, beyond the highlights. We uncover those nuances, the why behind the what.
It's like we're peeling back the layers of an onion, and each layer is
I like that.
revealing something new and fascinating about the game, about
Yeah.
the players, even about us as fans.
Totally.
So there you have it. We went deep on Real Madrid versus Panathinaikos, a game that was so much more than just your average regular season matchup.
It really was.
We talked star players making statements,
Big Sue.
unsung heroes
Search play.
seizing their moment,
Love it.
and those strategic battles playing out both on and off the court.
It's all connected.
But most importantly, hopefully we've given you, the listener, something to think about.
There you go.
How much do those past experiences, those wins, those losses, how much do they shape who we are, how we perform, not just on the basketball court, but in life.
It makes you think.
It really does.
Great discussion today.
That's all the time we have for this deep dive. As always, a huge thank you to you, the listener, for joining us on this journey through the ups and downs, the X's and O's, and all the incredible moments that make the Euroleague so captivating. We'll catch you next time for another deep dive.